Welcome back to Practice Underwater, presented by SharePrexes. This is your host, Matt Garino. I'm trying to do a more formal introduction. Welcome.
I see that.
We don't have any music, so I figured I'd do something formal.
Dun, dun, dun. Vulnerability music.
No, not yet. Not yet. Don't jump the gun. This was a fun one to do. I actually recorded this months ago, so George is going to help me out. He listened to it recently and help me to see what he saw and bring up some good topics to talk about. So, George, welcome.
Yeah, so actually I messaged Matt and I said, this is my favorite Practice Underwater interview he has ever done. And the reason I say that is because so it's like Matt said that last week about mine. The thing that really spoke to him was, that I felt like they had a lot of the same issues, him and Obi, our last guest. And for me, Rick is a new listener. And so much shared practices mindset comes through. And I think that's the thing that I'm most passionate about. So maybe it's not your favorite, but as somebody who, carries our flag, to see it so loud and proud in the next two parts is really, really cool. And this is a great interview. And so to give everyone context, so this was recorded sometime, it sounds like June, July of 2020 is around when this was done. That's kind of the context clues I got. So it's a newish listener who bought a practice and, so anyway, we'll jump right in. But I did want to say, so we just got done with beefy episodes in my part. These interviews, Matt, 35 minutes and 30 minutes.
So George, they're efficient, to the point, concise, like how I would describe myself.
So, yeah, don't worry. You guys have because I know people lighter listening these next couple of weeks.
People work out for 45 minutes. People usually drive on average about 45 minutes. Yeah. An episode that's 45 minutes is a perfect time.
Yeah. So Matt is being very conscious of your guys' time, and he squeezed an hour's worth of interviewing in.
This is like how I run my practice. I say to everyone, nobody waits in this office right away. No one sits down. Get
so New York of you.
Get to the back. All right, we'll get into it. Yeah. Okay, guys, welcome back to Practice Underwater. We have another guest with us today. His name is Rick. Rick, how you doing?
Wow.
Good, man. Thanks for coming on. I think you got a pretty interesting practice. We got a lot of ways we can go with it. So why don't you tell everyone about your background and what you got going on?
All right. So I'm 29. I graduated dental school in 2016. Worked out of school for 2 years at two different practices. The first one was like a Medicaid startup, and that really didn't go well. The owner was never there, and I was just getting paid per diem to pretty much do nothing. And then the second year I wanted more experience, and so I went and worked at kind of like a DSO, and really produced a lot. Got to I moved into my own office where I was the head doc there, and then kind of did that for a few months and just realized, hey, I could be doing this on my own. So then I started looking for practices, and then right at 2 years out of school, I purchased the practice, and then I've been in the practice now for 2 years. 2 years anniversary is about 4 days ago. So
nice. So let's see, June 2018 you started?
Yes.
So I was May 2018, also a 2016 grad. Very similar paths. So what was the office like when you bought it, and kind of what is it doing now?
Yeah, so his collections in 2015 was like right out of mill. And then 2016, I think it took a little dip to like 965. And then 2017, it was maybe like 935. And it's a small practice, 4 ops, 1 hygienist, 1 dentist, the owner, 1 assistant, and then 1 front desk office manager type role. His wife was also working at the practice as kind of like the recall coordinator. But he did more cosmetics in the practice than I do now. It seemed like he had, 1 good cosmetic case a month. Didn't do any ortho or Invisalign. Didn't really place his own implants. He referred to an oral surgeon for that. But yeah, that's about it.
So you took over June 2018. What did you guys do your first full year in 2019?
I think we collected 800 and I don't know 830. Seems like in 2019.
Okay. What do you attribute that drop off to?
Well, a couple things. I mean, 2019 was kind of a big year for me outside of the business. I got married. We went on a honeymoon.
Nice.
We like to travel, me and my wife. So we
Mhm.
closed the practice for 2 weeks while we were gone there, and then also, he opened the practice at this location. The seller did back in like 2000. So he didn't do any updates since then. So it was time to kind of renovate the office. Got some free lease improvements from the new lease that we signed with them. So used that while we were gone on our honeymoon to renovate the practice. But then another thing, just kind of tracking it, it seems like, recall was where we lost a lot of production in 2019. And, just I think missing out on that big case a month too. I think that's really where we missed off a lot of production.
Yeah. I mean, that's another parallel. I also got married in 19, took a honeymoon just into 2020. Feel we're living alternate lives at the same things. Anyways, so the loss of recare, what do you like? But we'll get into kind of your vision where you want your practice to go. I just want to get a full scope of kind of where you are now. Um, so like what kind of happened, do you think, with that recare dropping off?
So it's weird. So in the practice, like I said, his wife worked in the practice as a recall coordinator. They did not pre-book anyone. That was not their system. So they would just have the books completely open, and the wife would go in there for a few hours every day and just kind of book recall about 2 weeks out. Never any more than that. And so, when I bought the practice with him, he kind of mentioned, hey, my wife, works here. She does that. And I was like, okay, my wife we're relocated down here and she didn't have a job. So I was like, okay, maybe she could fill that same role. Well, that's a huge task to just throw someone in. And so that really didn't work out that well. But I thought, hey, maybe if we, added some systems in place, try to pre-appoint patients when they leave, add like automated appointment reminders and recare reminders and stuff like that, maybe, that can solve itself. And then when the hygienist is slow, maybe she can work on, recall. But I mean, that's kind of how we've had it now for like the last, year. There's no one like directly overfilling hygiene. But then, started listening to you guys and started tracking, all this about 2 months ago. And I just see like there's just a huge need for that extra person to kind of take care of that and be responsible.
Sure. Yeah. That extra person in the front. I mean, what a terrible system. Calling people, getting them 2 weeks in like that. It sounds horrible. I'm glad you did away with that. So you came to us. What do you want to kind of get out of the call, and like what direction do you see yourself going that you're kind of getting stuck?
Well, I think just kind of taking a look at all the numbers and seeing anything that I've missed. Like I said, I've really learned a lot from y'all just from listening to all the Practice Underwater podcasts and all the the other stuff. We started to track treatment acceptance and pre-appointment percentage. Ultimately, I think I have my vision of how I think the practice should be, and I just kind of want to get some feedback on that, and maybe get any tips or anything that you see that that you think we should immediately improve.
Sure. Well, go into that vision. Like, what do you want this practice to ultimately doing, and what kind of days, hours do you want to work, and kind of even what is the general feel of it?
Right. So, I mean, this practice is it's in an area that I was originally from, and I knew a lot of people in the area, friends, family, and so that's always kind of what I had in mind to have my own practice in. But so me and my wife moved back down here, and just kind of seeing traveling more and doing more things, I realized it's not the best location to live, and so now I kind of feel a little stuck here. But I think there's still a way that I can be happy and live here and own a successful practice, and that has to be me and my wife like to travel a lot. We've taken a couple like 4 to 6 week vacations, like when I got my license from dental school during that little hiatus. And then also from my second job until purchasing the practice, we took another 4-week trip there, and we really enjoyed that. And ultimately, I know I can't travel for 4 weeks at a time and own a practice and be the only doctor there, but I'd like to get to a point where I can take off, say 2 weeks at a time and not feel terrible about it, and know that I can't pay the bills if I'm gone. And so I think the most recent one I listened to you guys was a similar situation where doc and maybe the associate is not the right way to go, or maybe it is. I don't know, but that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, so if you were be able to take off 2 weeks, when you felt like it, when you want to travel, like what would the practice need to be doing for you to be okay with that?
Like collection wise for the month, or
yeah.
So I mean, right now, I would probably say 60,000 or 70. Yeah, 60,000 would probably cover all the bills. And right now, every month I have like kind of a little budget in place, and round numbers, we can collect around 60,000, and that's kind of like all overhead expenses paid for, and that's also my salary included in that. So
that's practice note too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so 60,000 break even point. So like, where do you feel comfortable? Because like in the month we're going to be looking at here, June, you did just over 100. So what is the number that you need?
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep pushing that number. And I know George mentioned like paying off student debt's kind of an emotional response or emotional action, but I really want to get my student debt paid off. I graduated with about $300K. Mm-hmm. And this last year, even though 2019 wasn't the most successful year for us, I still did pay off 90,000
nice.
Last year. And I've paid off more than that, after tax income, like throughout the last few years, but I still need to make one large push on that. And I think once I, paid off, that student loan, I'll feel more comfortable, having like just an okay month instead of like, profiting a bunch from the business side of things. But I mean, I would love to have, $1 million practice consistently. And I know, looking back at, through Dentrix, I can see all the numbers that he had. And I think, June was our very best month ever, as far as I can go back in Dentrix. And I'm happy that we got to that point, but I just want to make sure that's consistent and not just like, hey, this is a great month because we had a lot of implants.
Mm-hmm. So you think like 85,000 a month and higher is what you want to be aiming for?
Yeah, I think at this, team member level, I think that's the goal. So that's another area that I'm kind of divided is, I know I need to hire that second, front desk to be over scheduling. And it's just that, I'm just worried like, hey, I'm going to, increase my overhead all this much. And then, maybe we do increase collections, but if it's the same, is it going to be worth it managing another person? Or
can I rant for a second real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So George has really opened my eyes up to the kind of the term overhead doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like it's much easier to think of things like your break even point. So you add a staff member, your break even point, I don't know, maybe goes from 60,000 to what would that staff member be a month? 4,000 or 5,000?
Yeah, around that.
Okay, let's call it 65,000. So now your break even point has gone up 5,000 a month. Now, is that person going to allow you to do $5,000 more in dentistry? Do you feel?
Good. That should be very easy to calculate.
Yeah. So let's see. According to your numbers, so your production per patient per recare patient is 680. Your production for a new patient is 600. Both of those, by the way, are well in the 90th percentile of all PBN users. So you maximize patients better than most. And we'll get into more of this. So, I mean, if she's able to schedule, I don't know, 5,000, 15 more patients, you've paid for her and then some. And now you have someone who has ownership of that role, whose sole, main job is to fill the hygiene column. And, I was looking at your local med. Your hygienist's got a lot of openings coming up.
Yeah, I definitely, see the benefit of that. I tracked, I made an Excel spreadsheet and kind of just used all the data to go in and log all the hygiene history. And we have the same hygienist as the other seller did. He hired her about 3 years before he retired and sold. But yeah, they were seeing, like, on average throughout the year after year, they were seeing on average 8 patients or more a day. And then now, we're down to like 5.5 on average. So yeah, I definitely see, if scheduling coordinator could come on and just book 1 extra patient per day, then obviously it's going to make it.
What do you think the issue is? Because you've obviously brought a lot to the practice. For the people, this is a tough podcasting to talk about. I'm going to talk about your website, and they won't be able to see it. But your website's beautiful. The office looks amazing. You got a ton of reviews. You're a really good-looking guy. You do a ton of good dentistry. I'm sure better than the seller. Like, why is there a drop-off in patients? Because this practice is net losing patients a decent amount every month.
Yeah. I think that's, a scheduling issue. And, we're starting to see that. I'm trying to keep, now that I know, people fall through the cracks. I want to say we've had probably 5 people in the last few weeks that I can remember off the top of my head who haven't been in over a year, and they're just like, oh yeah, sorry, I got busy. And I know that didn't happen when the seller was here, because he kind of ran a tight ship, and boy, I know it's a weird way to do stuff, but she could cold call and get some patients on the books. Mm-hmm. And she was pretty aggressive with it, calling people multiple times, sometimes a day, and they still showed up and did everything. But yeah, I think, I need to have someone who's directly over that role to try to keep the patients here. And we did lose some patients, just from the process of owning a new, transitioning over to a new owner. I'm younger. He was in his 60s. I'm in my 20s. And just, a lot of that. Had one guy walk in and look at my degree, shake his head, and walk out.
So you got to put the degree where they can't see it. So
I removed it that day.
That's funny though. So is your one front? Is she tapped out? It's like she can't handle any more duties.
Getting to that point, and I'm now kind of just like coaching her, like, it's okay. Recently I've told her, like, hey, we're gonna hire someone else here soon. As soon as I know, COVID's not gonna shut us down again. But yeah, she's pretty tapped out. We're also, I'm trying to different marketing avenues. And one thing we're doing right now is kind of like a funnel marketing thing on Facebook. And, it takes someone sitting there sifting through all the leads to try to get, more patients. And that's another, I'm trying to put that on her right now too. And it's just a little too much.
Yeah.
And so I know if we want to go that marketing route, because this is the first time we've ever tried Facebook ads is right now. And so far it's working, but it just takes a little bit more extra effort to do compared to like ad click, Google Words or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think, if another person, if they could handle that side of marketing better, would be worth it.
Yeah, let's get into that a bit. The main issue with your practice, it just jumps off the PBN page, doctor dependent, like 100% doctor dependent practice. And you're a beast clinically, like selling dentistry, doing a bunch of different stuff, implants, oral surgery. You do a ton, you sell well. There's really, like, we're not going to talk anything about that today because it's all great.
Before we get back to the episode, I wanted to take a minute and thank Practice by Numbers. Without their help and allowing us to set up the shared practices dashboard, a lot of what we do on Practice Underwater wouldn't be possible. I want to take a minute and highlight a clip from the episode that we did with Rohit, where we highlighted some of the metrics that really matter most. I personally really like the dollars scheduled metric, because I always like to see, am I growing? Am I kind of, in which direction are we going? We should be at least scheduling more than we're producing, because usually some patients drop off. So I think that's kind of a good place to be. And so when I have a client and they just had a bad month and they're feeling down on themselves, I can always look at their dollar schedule to see which way are they trending. Are they going to have a big month next month? Like, can they cheer themselves up knowing that they're scheduled in a growth trajectory? Or are they ultimately, I need to say, hey man, you got an issue. I know you just had a good month, but you're setting up yourselves up for a couple bad months. And, then they can turn it around. But I think having that heads up holds you accountable as a business owner, where you're not relying on how much money did I make this month. And that's how I know, how things are going. I think you have the heads up one way or the other. I hope you guys enjoyed that clip. If you guys are interested in trying out Practice by Numbers and looking at your practice through the Shared Practices dashboard, and there are many other dashboards, you can go to practicebynumbers.com and set up a free trial.
Your issue is patient flow. You got too many people overdue. You're not hygiene pre-appointing well at 75%. That's not good enough. And your new patients are low. So, just to stay in the recall current side of things, do you have any systems for activating people, especially with COVID, reaching out to them?
No, I've kind of explored that. We use legwork for our, appointment reminders and everything. And I thought about maybe setting up something like that. We do have, like, say when they're 3 months past due, so 9 months since their last cleaning, it'll send them an email or whatever, but that's about it. The problem is, my wife tried to fill that role of being the scheduling coordinator, and, she just didn't care to cold call people. And then I tried handing it, like, splitting the responsibility between, like, front and hygienist type of thing. Like, hey, when you're not busy, make the calls. And it really hasn't improved things. It's like no one has direct responsibility over the role. So I just feel like it's not, getting done that well. But then some of it too, I think, the pre-appointment percentage, we're starting to track that. I make the hygienist report that to me every day. That way she knows that she's not pre-appointing people, and we're doing things to improve on that. And I feel like it's going in the right direction there.
What is her goal?
My goal, I told her my goal for pre-appointment percentage is over 90%. And then last month, so she just handed me her little Excel spreadsheet that she's been keeping track of, and she was at like 67%. So I told her, hey, that's too low. We're going to have to start changing things up. And one thing that we kind of altered this last month that kind of may have stunted that a little bit is we've tried, basically I'll go there, diagnose and everything, tell them like, hey, you need 2 fillings. And then I'll tell the hygienist to schedule the treatment with the patient to kind of stress more urgency there instead of talking about finances. And then I'll just mention, if you have any questions about finances, you can ask, our front desk on the way out. And so she then books that appointment, and then it's kind of awkward being like, okay, and then let's set up your other, your 6 months recall.
It's not awkward. It's only awkward if you make it awkward.
What she mentioned. And so one of the things we're changing up this month to see if it works better is she's going to pre-appoint them before she comes and gets me for a hygiene check. Then I come in and diagnose, and then we will, talk about treatment and scheduling for that.
Yeah, I like that flow a lot. I think, pre-appointed before you get in there. And then I like her scheduling doctor treatment too. And perfect. You got any questions, finances, check at the front. That's a great flow. So, it sounds like you're making headway in that department. It's really about starting a reactivation campaign. Starting with calling these people as a baseline. I call people if they're 6 months and 1 day overdue. Like, I'm not letting them get 9 months. People see through the crack and don't answer phone calls and whatever. And then getting, if that doesn't take headway, sending letters once a month for 3 months. You're overdue. Like, you got to get back in. We got to turn some of these people around.
Yeah, and that's one area that I've tried looking on. I've tried making systems and scripts and stuff for the practice during COVID when we were kind of shut down, and I don't know, like there was no clear. I was looking for like a clear like script to tell patients or what works the best or what words to use, and it was a bunch of mixed responses, and so I still haven't got that part figured out to what works the best. Is it what do you mention when you're trying to get them back in, because it seems like they kind of just, blow it off. But
so you're focusing on what works the best without trying anything, right? You're trying to get like the perfect script you can use instead of just doing it. Like, seeing what works, finding your guys' own style. Like something is better than nothing at this point.
Yeah, we definitely need to work on that. And I think, I'm ready to make that next step of hiring that, the second front desk. And I guess I just need to just do it, even though it's COVID.
I mean, I would get the systems in place now and maybe even have your one front do some of it if she has time, but while also trying to hire some. Like, this can't wait any longer. And then I'm guessing you guys were shut down in April, right?
Yeah, we shut down mid-March and then all of April.
Yeah. So are you planning for what's coming in October?
Oh, for the big gaps in the schedule? Yeah, I mean, planning a vacation, but
I got to stop asking questions I know the answer to because I know the answer is no. So the sorry to be a little harsh there, but you have eight appointments scheduled in October, and that could be part of which because you have a vacation plan, as you mentioned. But like, do you have you been telling your hygienist to book second cleanings in October? And if not, please do so now.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely need to start taking a handle on that because yeah, I feel like there is still a lot of patients who have pushed their appointments instead of coming in. So I thought maybe, I don't know, it'll kind of just float into the other months. But yeah, I need to have something in place for that.
Yeah, because I mean, a normal month for you looks like 60 hygiene appointments booked. And like I said, October you have 8, November you only have 23, and then it jumps back up in December to a little over 40, and January to over 40 as well. That's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially when you're reactivating people to kind of favor those months when you can. If they give you some slack about coming in soon, hey, let's get you in October. So that's where I would go with that. And then let's talk marketing. So what have you kind of tried? What are you trying now? Like, where are you at with everything?
Yeah, so this, marketing is a tough beast for me because I don't know, I never feel satisfied with what we get. The seller had just a website, and he I think it was from, well, I don't want to say the company, but he spent like $60 a month, and they hosted his website, and it was just something a little thrown together. It didn't look bad, but he was on the web, and he didn't do any Google reviews or anything like that. I think he had demand force reviews, but no one could ever see them. And so when I came in, I wanted a nice website, so I started kind of designing the website myself, just trying to how I wanted the theme to be and all that stuff. And then I eventually hired a dental marketing company, and they made the website professional and the same theme that I wanted. And I wrote out all the pages, and then they have like 3 tiers of marketing plans. First one's where they just host the website, and the second tier is where they host the website and do your social media stuff and manage your online listings and stuff like that. And then the third tier is where they do your paid ads. So we're on the third tier with that, and they do $1,000 a month of Google AdWords, and that's basically all I've had for all of 2019 and the start of 2020. And it wasn't until COVID closure, that I told that company, like, hey, let's just knock it down to the lowest tiered plan because I want to kind of go in hibernation mode right now, and we're not I don't want to market. And then when we opened in May, I still had them shut down. And actually, in the month of May, I had more new patients in May than I did the months that I had the marketing going. So then I was just like, well, let's just keep it off for now while there's still uncertainty. And so we did, and we were keeping our same new patient numbers. And then I saw ad for Facebook, Invisalign, Facebook marketing type of thing. So I've been trying that out, and that started like a week ago. And so far, we've had a couple of cases that are paid, so that part's working. But I haven't got back with my original marketing company to say to open Google Ads again because I just don't know what direction to go. Because Google Ads, to me, I feel like I've spent so much time developing the website and making sure that's perfect, and then also making sure we get a lot of Google reviews, that when we get a new patient and they just mention Google, like, how do I know that's from AdWords at all, or I'm just wasting $1,000 a month to get patients who would have came to us anyways. And then, sometimes we do get patients. We're in an area where like one side of the street's super, super nice, and the other side of the street's just, low class, apartment complex and everything. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like sometimes the patients we get maybe from Google AdWords aren't the right fit for the practice anyways, because we're just marketing like emergency exam or whatever, which, sometimes you get lucky from that. But I would like to attract patients who want to come in because they like the practice and they, like what they saw on website and Google reviews, and not just because they clicked the first link.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, your website's beautiful. You rank pretty high in SEO, got a lot of Google reviews. There's one in your area that's like beastly with them, but you're second to them. Have you tried any print, any mailers ever, anything?
I mean, I forgot to mention the seller did. So there's like a gated community country club that's about a mile and a half down the road. That he did have a little like quarter page ad in their little magazine for the country club, but I kept that for the first year, and we didn't get any patients from it, so I kind of just stopped doing it. I thought maybe, hey, these are older patients; they don't want to see a younger guy's ad, and I think maybe it's the wrong fit. And also, coming out of that gated community, there's literally 5 dentists that you could throw a rock and hit. So, I mean, I'm just a little too far from that, even though it's only a mile and a half. But yeah, we've never done any mailers. I know you guys, like that. You made that magazine thing, which is nice, but haven't done any print at all. Just only paid marketing is Google Ads and then the website.
I mean, there's just there's no reason in my mind that you should be at 15 new patients a month. Like, there is no reason.
Yeah, I know. That's what I want to,
This is frustrating me.
It's frustrating me too. And I want to try different things. But yeah, I feel like that's the other thing, before I found out I had a huge problem with hygiene recare, like my whole thing was like, man, we got to keep trying stuff to get more new patients, because I feel like, same way, 10 to 15 a month is not that great. And then now, now that it's been 2 years, I'm more established with the patients. The patients trust me a lot more now, and we're starting to get way more word of mouth referrals, where in the first, year we didn't get any, I think. And so now patients, family members, and friends are starting to come, and the new patient numbers still haven't increased. It's still around 15 a month.
I mean, this is where, if I were you, I would put like 90% of your focus is growing patient base. I mean, you're a pretty small practice right now. You're under 900 patients active. But so like the way you maximize them, how many dollars you get out of each patient due to your skill as a dentist and how many different services you offer and the type of patients you have, like, of the value of a patient is so high for you, like more than most offices. So like you get more, like this could be $1.5 million practice. It doesn't have to stop at 1 million.
Yeah.
Like if you had 1,500 patients, you'd be pushing 2 mil. No doubt in my mind.
Definitely. I've seen that vision, and I want to accomplish that. I just feel, I just don't know the right direction. Before I just started listening to podcasts about, when the COVID started happening. So March time. So before that, I didn't even know dental podcasts existed. And so I've welcomed all this knowledge, and I'm just like, consuming it, drinking from a fire hydrant over here. But, marketing is still this thing that, I listen to all these podcasts and everything, and it's still, there's no, and I know it kind of depends on the area and everything, but, we are in a larger city, and we are like, you can search Google Maps and there is a ton of dentists around me. So it's super competitive. I don't know if that's maybe an issue or marketing strategies for a competitive area like that. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I want to work on. And the thing that I've been doing for that, I've started taking some online courses that people put together on like how to do Facebook marketing and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know. I've kind of put that on hold because I'm putting a bunch of time into something that, I don't know if I'm ever going to be the best at to do.
I mean, you're kind of operating your marketing like your office. Like, it's doctor dependent. It's all dependent on you. You got to take a course, figure out Facebook marketing, then implement it and do it all, because your staff members don't have time for it because you're understaffed. Like, I don't know. I feel like you should have some talks with different agencies and see if someone speaks to you, because I just think it's a lack of eyeballs. I think if people saw your website, you saw your listing, like, they're going to come to you. So, and I'm not a marketing expert by the slightest, but I just feel like it's not enough people seeing you.
Yeah, that's
I would have calls with a couple people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely open to suggestions and or companies, because I've been with the same company since the start of 2019. Like I said, 2019 wasn't a great year for us, and we marketed with them all year. But yeah, and that's another reason why I feel like I like this Facebook ad thing, because at least they're posting a picture of us, and in the practice, picture of me or whatever, because at least they're getting kind of a little taste of what our practice is like. Whereas Google Ads, they're just clicking on a link and it doesn't really matter. And so I definitely want to try Facebook ads for sure, but I just don't know if doing it with my same marketing company is right, because I don't know, they've made that same little landing page for the Google AdWords, and it hasn't changed in 12 months. And it kind of just, I feel like they're a company that just wants to get like a monthly payment, and then just if I'm not complaining, they're not changing.
And then the Instagram page, do you manage that and run it?
Yeah, so that's another thing is, like I said, the marketing company has 3 tiers, and that middle tier that we pay for, they don't do our social media stuff. I do that. Me and my wife do. Mm-hmm. We try to make sure that's fresh, Facebook and Instagram. And, we gotten a few patients from that, but we not really. I mean, it's kind of just like keeping, I guess, your name out there to friends and family.
Yeah, it's a beautiful page. So you're doing a great job with it. Again, I would love to have you talk to Kashavi, who's part of our mastermind group, who's just a savant with this stuff in social and Facebook and Instagram and all of this. Because you're the choice in your area. It's clear from just me looking that if people see you, they're going to come to you.
That's what we want. We want to get those new patients, and it's so frustrating to me too. And I think first year, I was up to my neck in stuff, pile of paperwork on my desk, and then got married, honeymoon, all that. And then now it's finally getting to that point where I'm not, losing sleep over like, hey, am I going to lose my practice because I can't, produce enough? I'm ready to take it to that next step and put more, effort into things. But yeah, I mean, a great, recommendation for a company that's trustworthy and that type of stuff would be huge, because all these companies say the same thing and sign up and I get fooled.
I know. It's everyone. It's tough. It really is tough out there. All right. Well, we're kind of wrapping down part 1. Is there anything else you wanted to make sure we touch on, or things you want to get out of the call before we kind of go more numbers based?
No, I think we covered everything.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to go in the numbers more. It's kind of similar to my office when I first bought it in some ways, like the small team, but high doctor producing, small patient base. So it's cool to see that this is kind of one path I could have stayed on. And then I met George and kind of realized the path of growing hygiene and focusing on that more. So I'm excited to point out some spots that I think need improvement, and definitely praise you for all the good stuff you're doing too.
Show me the way.
All right. Well, we'll stop here. We'll see everyone next week with our part 2 of our interview with Rick. Okay. Hope you guys enjoyed part 1 with Rick. George, I think, is pulling up his lists by the way he's looking at something
I got
else
my
on the
list.
Screen.
Yes. And
Okay.
Matt, so you don't remember this interview. So let me tell you, you guys don't know. So the experience we had a webinar like a month ago, and Ellen, Matt's wife, was telling me of the experience of watching Matt watch the webinar. He's screaming at the TV, yelling at it, be like, say this. And I did. And then he's celebrating. And that is what it's like for me to listen to an interview with Matt. And the moment where I freaked out the most and I inaudibly said some cuss words that I only say on Dental Friends with Benefits was the break-even point discussion that you guys had, the patient efficiency philosophy you guys had. Oh my God. That was the most exciting. That was, I would say, if someone listens to Practice Underwater a year ago, that conversation isn't happening.
No.
And hearing you the whole time, the thing that I messaged Matt, I said, man, you're really killing this is, so many times as a new listener, he's not super familiar with our philosophy, and you can tell. And then Matt's just explaining it so eloquently. And the way Matt does it, Matt and I have such different styles, and we're joking about it in the intro, but he has this very swift kind of matter-of-fact way of saying things, and that's why the things are shorter. But it's very cool to hear him embody what we're about in his own voice. And I think that was the thing I really, really picked up on. You guys talked about it a few times, but oh man, that break-even point conversation again was so. And by the way, he's not paying a front desk $5,000 a month. I mean, where this guy's located, it's more like $3,000. But anyway,
I mean, I feel like that break-even topic we're gonna have to bring up a lot and beat out of people. The overhead versus break-even is and it's cool. It's cool to see like a non-listener, but that's also willing to grow and expand and is open to ideas. I think remembering back, it was cool to interact with someone like that and just to know anything about us, like heard about us a month ago and like, I'm going to reach out to these guys. Like also very like
different concepts. Yeah.
And very like open of him to like immediately reach out.
That was really cool. And I think you talked about something, and I wanted to expand on it. You talked about his patient efficiency. That was a term you were sort of talking about, where because of the way he diagnoses and converts treatment, a patient is worth so much more to him than it is to another person.
He's a super producer, this guy.
He's a super producer, exactly.
Yeah.
And so his margin for error is so much bigger, so we can be more aggressive. That's kind of our whole philosophy, is like understanding the doc. He's very patient efficient, so we're going to push. And there's two ways to get patient efficiency.
Well, before you go into that, do you know where I got this idea? From you telling me that I was this person that I should be doing probably like a year and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah, that's just core to our philosophy, though. Every time we onboard a client, the first thing our coaches look at is their patient efficiency to see how aggressive or conservative we have to be. And it was beautiful to see this right here because, and for him, it's interesting because so Matt and I are both very patient efficient as practice owners. I would argue Matt does it in a more doctor dependent way, kind of like this doc, where he's like, and that's why you said like, you're like, I am you, like you said that like 6 times in the interview. And I do it in a more practice dependent way where my proactive and reactive retention systems are very in place. And, we convert well, we do well, hygiene, productivity wise, we have systems in place, and that's why we happen to be patient efficient. So I think there's 2 ways of doing it. And, he did it the doctor dependent way. And I think this is an ideal coaching client for a lot of reasons, because if we can introduce the practice efficiency as well, what's possible is, oh my gosh, this is a practice that would explode with some solid retention systems in place.
Can we go into that doctor dependent term a bit? Because it lands as a bit of like a negative connotation. Is that how you mean it? Or is that just my interpretation of this?
Yeah. So the success of the practice is doctor dependent. The statement is very objective.
Okay, so that's not inferring a bad thing. It's just a thing.
I don't like it, so I think you probably hear my bias.
That's probably what you're coming into.
But I don't. It's not inherently. So my practice is, I think there is some negative bias to it because you have a job. Like you are the reason why. I don't know. Maybe to me, I view it as a negative bias because I wouldn't want my practice to be dependent on me to perform well. I would like it to perform well on its own merit.
Yeah, I would challenge you on that one because I don't see it as a bad thing. I don't see a doctor dependent thing as if it aligns with their vision of being the doctor for years and years.
Correct.
Like that's not an issue.
But I think the thing that I would like to add, this isn't an either or. You're not either doctor dependent or practice dependent. I think you can be, very well run practice, and then the fact that you're a high performing doctor, you'll just perform even better in your own practice, but it won't be dependent on you to do well.
Right. Gotcha.
So I think there is some negative connotation there. I think that's fair. But I don't mean it that way when I say it. I think I just say it is doctor dependent. It's factual. It is doctor dependent.
Gotcha.
But
clarification there.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk to you about, I think So two things. um, I thought it was funny that he kind of set this comment, and I think this is like the world we live in. So for our coaching clients, we have in PBN, practice by numbers, since like June, we were able to see how many appointments everyone has in October. And he kind of had this like, October seems slow. And it was like this, or no, he didn't even say that yet. This was in June. He had some comment about that, like, October, or I think you told him you have 8 appointments in October. He said something like that. And I cracked up because I was like, wow, I think we sometimes forget, the value of knowing that in June, July versus figuring that out in November, like a lot of people did. So I think that was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I crack up when I see the Facebook posts that go around maybe a month ago that are like, anyone else's October super slow? Like, what do we do? Like, well, if you had the metrics tracking and the support from maybe a coach, you would see that.
We started talking about that in May. I mean, it's incredible to me.
I remember George called me probably in May and said, "This is the only thing I'm thinking about right now is my October," and I was like, "Wow, okay, this is a thing. Like, let's
get cracking on October in May. Yeah,
for real."
My staff was super confused by that, but then I think we had a solid October. So I think that last thing I want to add is solo vacation, Matt. I know this is a topic that he talked about, but you have thoughts on that as well. Can you talk about to our solo listeners? And this is me totally sidestepping something that I just have no experience in. When are they ready to take a vacation? Can you help them sort of know, like, what is the financial, like, give them some guidance on when to take vacation versus, how do you know you're ready for a trip?
Damn, George, you hit a button and maybe you didn't even know it. Did you?
I know that this is a hot topic for you. I know you've talked about this before. That's why I wanted you to talk about it, because I think you offer a great perspective.
I find it very sad that a person who loves taking vacations, who just happens to be a solo dentist owner, doesn't do vacations for the first months, year, whatever. Like, no, like, you need that recharge time. Like, so many of us young people love traveling, and to deprive yourself of that because you think your business might fall apart or you need to be at the office is almost always unfounded, and really sad. And I don't think people should operate from that. So if you want, I can get to some tactical ways to plan this. Is that what you're looking for?
I first want to. So how long is a reasonable amount of time? I kind of want to lead this discussion a little bit. What's a reasonable amount of time for vacation?
Like, to take a vacation? How reasonable?
2 weeks or one at a time?
You can do both.
Okay. Yeah. So talk about tactically how to do that. How to take a 2 week or 1 week vacation.
Well, for me, something my wife and I do, we do yearly honeymoons, we call them. So we take 2 weeks in February because February is the worst month in the Northeast. So 2 weeks, February, that's like a standard thing we do every year. I think that's easily attainable. There are a couple of ways to do it. You could keep the practice open, hygiene only. You could keep the practice open, hygiene with maybe a retired dentist who wants to just babysit hygiene for 2 weeks. This is something I've done as well. That works pretty well. They're not too hard to find, something like that. Pay him $500 a day. He checks some hygiene and he pays for his salary on the doctor exams he's able to do, and then tees you up for treatment. I think that works really well. I think it's also possible to close the office, like with enough notice, encouraging staff to use paid time off. Staff can temp other places, have someone there to answer phones. The office isn't going to fall apart. Patients aren't going to go away. Like, that's not really what happens. You have a specialist, an endodontist, maybe a surgeon cover you for emergencies. Not that difficult. Someone answer phone, like, really someone answer phones is the only thing you really need.
And I do like the idea of like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday schedule where those alternate so that every other week you have 6 days off. I think that's a cool schedule as well if you want to do that more regularly and like have it fall into the flow.
But like if you're traveling somewhere overseas,
no, you can't do 2. Yeah, you have to need more.
Yeah, like if you're making a trip, you got to be there over a week to really actually be there. You got the jet lag, and then you want to experience being in the new culture. Like, just if that's who you are, and it may not be, don't deprive yourself of that because you think X might happen to your practice if you leave for 2 weeks. Like, we only live once. We're only young once. Let's experience things.
Yep. And the only other thing I had to mention about this episode, he talked about his dabbling in Facebook lead funnel marketing.
What's wrong with that?
I know, we're both cracking up. It's funny because he was remarking, he goes, "Yeah, man, it's a lot of time on my front desk."
Yeah. I mean, George and I both played around with the implant lead Facebook marketing.
Yeah.
And I
Neither
saw
of us are
some
still doing
success. You saw no success.
Yeah, that was a great
but
way
it
to
was a
burn a lot
lot.
of money in my mind.
And it's a lot of man hours.
Yeah, that is not a those.
That's like a thing. You see, they're popping up everywhere, like whack-a-mole with these implant Facebook marketers. I feel like I get messaged like once a week from one of these guys.
Well, I mean, yeah, all you have to be is like 17 and know how to work Facebook ads, and then now you have a business. So
yeah, I mean, I guess I can't knock the hustle, but like, there's a lot of you out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just that was more fun. That wasn't so much value being added.
We can have fun on the show. It's allowed. You can't just have fun on your other show and you come here and you're just like,
this is the serious show where no one gets the fun side of George. Yeah.
Why do I don't. Where's my fun? Where's my? I'm here to have fun too.
Well, we'll have fun off air, Matt, and we'll have fun next week. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Next week is really cool. I think there's a lot of great stuff that talks about next week as well. So, we'll get into that. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really did. We'll see you guys next week on the Shared Practices podcast.
George always wants to get the last word. So we'll see everyone next week on the Shared Practices podcast.